the month of September, and you could be forgiven for thinking, well, there isn't really much that I can be sowing at this time of year. Well, guess again, because there's plenty of things that you can be sowing. So if you're thinking that, or if you're wondering, what can I sow in September? That's exactly what I'm going to be talking about today. I'm going to be giving you some great recommendations for seeds that you can sow in September. And as ever, I'm going to be recommending one seed that if you sow nothing else, you have to sow this. Hey everyone, how's it going? And welcome back. And welcome back to the veg garden on what has to be one of the nicest evenings in August. It is clear, it's bright, and even though it's about 8 o'clock in the evening, it's still lovely and warm. So it's really hard actually to get my head around the fact that we need to be thinking about autumn seed sowing very, very soon for September. But as ever in gardening, it really does help to be well prepared. So I have my trusty seed box and I've got some brilliant recommendations for things to sow this September. Everything from legumes to root veg and leafy greens. All sorts of things that are going to either give you a nice quick crop now while the weather is still quite good and quite favourable before it slides really into autumn and winter. Some things that are going to grow really nicely for you under cover, or things that if you get started now, they'll overwinter nicely and give you a crop in the spring. So without further ado, let's get stuck in and let's start talking about some seeds. So the first set of seeds that I'm going to be talking about sowing in September are none other than these. Leafy greens, and that's because although you can sow them anytime through the summer, and certainly I did, if you get a blast of hot, dry weather, which I did, the plants tend to bolt, and then really they don't produce those nice lush leaves that you're looking for. However, September, certainly in Ireland and the UK, just gives you that slightly cooler, more damp weather that is really suited to leafy greens. So the things that I'm going to be sowing this month are spinach. Now, this variety is spinach Medania. It's the one that I always sow. It's brilliant to grow on just as baby leaves for salads, or you can grow it a little bit larger and use it in the traditional way as spinach that you would sweat down for cooking and for your dishes. It's absolutely brilliant, so I'll be sowing more of that. And then another leaf that I think is always quite close to spinach, chard. Now, so far this year, I've been sowing rainbow chard because I love all those bright colours, but I'm sowing something just a little bit different this month just to mix it up. It's a single colour variety, but it is bright pink in terms of it's got bright pink veins and bright pink stems, and this is called Pink Flamingo. I'm really looking forward to getting this started and seeing exactly how it looks and most importantly how it tastes. Alongside both of these then, I'm going to be growing some bok choy. Now, sadly, my bok choy seedlings earlier in the summer had so much hope and so much promise, and then the hot weather came and they bolted. So I'm going to do a new sowing of these. I really love bok choy in stir fries. You can also use the very baby leaves in salads just for a little bit of crunch and for a slightly different taste. But the ones I always opt for are, well, it's actually 3 varieties in one, and this is bok choy tricolour mix. And then finally, to round off all the leafy greens is, well, a leaf that kind of straddles leafy greens and salads, and it's corn salad. I always say in my seed sowing videos about how much I love this. It can be a bit tricky to grow during the summer, and I certainly find it quite tricky. So there'll be another successional sowing of this going in September, and I'm hoping that it's really going to love the cooler temperatures. Now, staying very close to the theme of leafy greens, let's talk about the next group of seeds, and that's brassicas, because there are some great brassicas that you can be sowing in September as well. The first of which is a nice spring cabbage. Now, I could have been sowing cabbages earlier in the year, and in fact I do remember saying in a previous seed sowing video that I don't grow cabbages because I don't like cabbage that much. Well, true to form, I didn't grow them and then I regretted it because I do quite like coleslaw. So what I'm going to be sowing is a spring cabbage that I'm going to get going now, get the plants established, and then they can overwinter so that they'll be nice and strong early in the spring for a really nice harvest, just to bring something fresh earlier in the year. Now, the variety that I'm going for is Wheeler's Imperial. It's one that's new to me, but it certainly is a well-established variety for exactly this, for overwintering and using as a spring cabbage. So this is the cabbage that I'm going to be going for. And then a couple of other brassicas that I'm already growing, but you can still keep sowing in September. The first one, and in fact I actually have it growing right behind me, is this. This is called Kailan, and in particular it's Kailan Kichi. It's Chinese broccoli. It matures really, really quickly. You grow it for little tender stems and it's perfect for stir fries. And then as well as that, I grow cauliflower all year round because the clue is in the name. All year round means that it is suitable for sowing all year round. At the moment, I have 6 cauliflowers in my brassica beds at the moment that are doing really nicely. But obviously, there's only so much cauliflower you can eat in a week or in a month. So rather than sowing huge numbers of plants, I'm going to go with another successional sowing of these in September to have them so that the plants can develop over the autumn and the winter, and then hopefully I'll have some more nice cauliflowers before long. Next up, let's talk about onions, because September is actually a really good time to get onions started, and you can start them in several ways. So what I think is the easiest would be to start onions and shallots from sets. So you can go out and buy sets now and get them planted so that they can start to develop over the winter and they'll be ready for next year for you. Or if you want to be a little bit more, what I think is a little bit more adventurous, you can actually grow onions from seeds. Now, that's what I'm going to be trying this September, but confession time, the variety of onion that I want to grow, I haven't been able to get the seeds for yet. So I'm going to hold up just a packet of onion seeds and I'm going to tell you to go and have a look online or in your garden centre, find an onion that interests you and buy some seeds and maybe give it a go. The great thing about seeds is that they're so cheap that it's certainly worth a try. But as well as regular onions or shallots, another onion that is great to be getting into the ground at the moment are spring onions. You can direct sow them at this time of year and they will develop, albeit a little bit slower because it's going into the autumn and winter, but they're nice hardy plants and they're great to get started. The spring onion that I've got here is called Guardsman. I've heard this mentioned by a YouTuber, Liz Zorab, who grows these during the winter. They're new to me, so it's going to be interesting to see how I get on with them. But I'll be sowing Guardsman, and the other one that I also sow is White Lisbon, but it's a very specific type of White Lisbon. So when you go online or into your garden centre, you're looking for a winter hardy White Lisbon spring onion seed. That's exactly what you need, and it'll give you some lovely, nice, fresh spring onions. Now, just as a little interlude to all of these very specific seed varieties that I'm talking about, another great group of things that you can get started are little salad leaves and things like kale and rocket, all those little baby leaves that are great to harvest for your own salads. I'm not going to go through all of them again in this video because I'll link either 1 or 2 of my other seed sowing videos up above. Go and have a look at them, check out some of the seed varieties that I recommend for salads, and then maybe try some of them yourself. Some you can direct sow outdoors because they will crop quite quickly for you, because we're still really sitting in late summer and even September tends to be quite a favourable month. Or what you can do is you can also get quite a lot of those things started now in pots and modules, and rather than growing them outside, grow them in something like a greenhouse or a polytunnel. They're going to overwinter really nicely in there and it'll give you some nice fresh salad seeds, not salad seeds, salad leaves all the way through the winter. Next up, we're going to be talking about what is actually a really big group of seeds that you can be starting in September, and that's root veg. There's so much selection, it's absolutely brilliant, but I'm going to be kicking off with beetroot. Now, if you've watched any of my other seed sowing videos, you'll know that all year I've been growing beetroot bolt hardy, which is just a really simple, strong performer, and beetroot chogia. I'm not going to be sowing any more of these because I already have quite a lot in the veg garden, but you can sow these now either for leaves or you can sow them into pots. Bring them into the polytunnel when you're ready to plant them into the polytunnel, and they're going to develop really nicely for you. Then you have the option of either using the leaves or growing the actual beetroots themselves onto maturity. But the beetroot that I'm going to be opting for in September is this. This is called beetroot bull's blood. If you go for almost any standard salad mix that's got purple beetroot leaves in it, it's most likely going to be this variety. Now, I have to be honest and say I didn't know that this was a specific variety that you could easily just buy. Maybe that's very naive of me, but I've managed to get hold of it now and I can't wait to try it. Like I say, it's called beetroot bull's blood. I'm going to be sowing loads of this in September and hoping that I can really reap the rewards of those lovely dark purple leaves that I can add into salads. But we're not done yet because there are some other great root veg to get started. The first being turnips. Now, turnips prefer slightly cooler conditions, very similar to the leafy greens that I was talking about earlier. And certainly I sowed some of these right at the start of the summer. They've produced beautiful, exactly like how I expected them to look, little turnips, little pure white golf ball sized turnips. Because they like cool conditions, now's the time to either be successionally sowing more if you already have them, or sowing some fresh ones. And these are Tokyo Cross. It's an F1 variety. That's the one that I'm going to be sticking with. And then it wouldn't be me talking about seeds without me talking about Old Faithful radishes. These are a brilliant catch crop to get into the ground now because they're going to reward you with a really quick crop. And just that, well, it's almost instant gratification of getting something nice that you can harvest out of the ground. And I'm going to be going with my two favourites as ever, French Breakfast and Cherry Belle. The next seeds that I'm going to be talking about, well, legumes, and in particular peas and beans. When it comes to peas, I will sow a few extra peas outside or even in the polytunnel, and all I'm using them for is just to get pea shoots. So you can sow almost any variety you want, even if you've collected them yourself. Now, I tend to sow pea meteor because it's an early variety and it grows nice and quick. So I'll be growing some for pea shoots. But then what I'm really looking forward to is this year I'm going to be sowing broad beans in the autumn. Now, this is a first for me because I've only ever sown broad beans in the spring. But if you sow them early and you get them in the autumn, they'll overwinter nicely. The plants develop nice and strong, providing they don't get eaten by something. And then, all being well, you'll have a really nice early bumper crop of broad beans. What could be better than that? So I've chosen a variety that is well renowned for being really hardy, really strong, and something that overwinters really nicely. And this is a broad bean. Now, I've heard of broad bean aqua dulce before, but this is actually called broad bean super aqua dulce. Now, how can you turn down anything that's got super in the name? These are really, really hardy, strong seeds. I'm going to get these going now in pots, and then once I see that the pots are nicely filled, obviously not with the plant but with the roots, so I know they've got a good strong root system, I'll plant them out and then they can overwinter and hopefully give me a nice early crop of beans. Right, the bit you've all been waiting for, my one seed that if you sow nothing else, you have to sow this. And I'm just looking and thinking, I'm going to have to get through this section pretty quick because it's starting to get dark, because sunset does come that little bit earlier in August now. I'm nearly caught out by this. And as ever, I'm breaking my own rules. The seed is not something that's in my seed box. It's these. Potatoes. And in particular, seed potatoes of an early variety. Now, these are not that. These are my potatoes that I dug up last week. But what you want to get hold of are some proper seed potatoes, either from a garden centre or online, or perhaps you bought seed potatoes back at the start of the year that you didn't use and you've maybe got some left over. If you have a nice early variety of potato, what you can do is you can have a really good bit of fun at this time of year and take on what is a great fun project, and that's to see if you can get yourself some nice new early potatoes for Christmas and New Year. Get yourself some compost bags or some containers and plant a few seed potatoes. Leave them outside and let them grow as normal. They're going to thrive really well in these conditions through late summer and early autumn, but the key thing is that frost is going to kill off the tops and you don't want that. So before the first frosts, and that means you really do need to know and understand your first frost date in your own locality, before those first frosts, lift those containers and get them into a polytunnel or greenhouse or a conservatory, somewhere that they're going to still get plenty of light and good growing conditions, but that's going to be frost-free. Keep them growing, and after about 12 or 14 weeks, and if you time it right, it's going to be around Christmas, you're going to get some nice new baby potatoes. Now, the crop may not be huge, but you've got to admit that is going to give you some seriously good bragging rights, being able to roll out some of your own homegrown fresh potatoes for Christmas dinner. Now, that hopefully has given you loads of ideas and inspiration for what you can sow and grow in September. As always, it's by no means an exhaustive list, and doubtless there are varieties that you're growing that I'm not, or you're trying different things. So make sure to leave me a comment down below. I really love being able to compare experiences and find out information from you guys against what I'm growing or what I'm not growing. So make sure to leave me a comment. And as ever, if you enjoyed the video, give me a thumbs up. If you're not already a subscriber, go on, hit that subscribe button and make sure to hit the bell icon as well. Doing that means that you know you'll never miss another Niall Gardens episode in the future. And until next time, happy sowing in September and see you later.